I've had a few messages coming through over the last few days. As you can imagine, it's the last thing that I need to be talking about, but I'm going to talk about it because it needs to be spoken about. Many of you will be aware, many of you will be aware that there is an ongoing court case. A court case that's been going on for a very long time, in fact. And it's from myself against parties from my former movement, Britain First, including the leader of Britain First, Paul Golding. And I've given you some updates on this in the past. Not many, actually. I think I've only discussed it once because from a legal perspective and someone from a legal background, it's not prudent to discuss ongoing cases. And also, I'm not really one to air one's dirty laundry when it comes to these kind of issues. I think they're best left within the confinement of the lawful space that's there, which is the courts. However, there comes a time when one must address certain events and injustices, and I'm going to do just that. And I had no intentions of doing this, but over the last few days, there have been what I can only describe as completely fraudulent activity, and I'm going to highlight it. And people can do what they like with it. They can let it go in one ear and out the other and pretend that they haven't heard it, or they can take my advice and be wary about such folk. So anyway, I'm going to share my screen with you now and give you a little bit of an update as to what's been going on. This has been going on for a few years, by the way. I don't talk about it because we've got better things to talk about. But this needs to be addressed. So I'm going to address it. Here we go. I'll share my screen with you. This is what you have before you here is an application for a default judgment. And you will see the judgment says between, and at the top it says Jayda Fransen, and then underneath it lists a number of defendants. The first of which is Paul Golding, and then another number of them listed who are officials of the Britain First movement. And there are two applications, actually, for a default judgment. There's that one there. And that relates to a contract for amounts that were owed to me when I was incarcerated. Many of you remember this was a long time ago. In 2018, I was sent to prison. In 2018, I stood up in court and I basically took the rap for an activity. And listen, let me tell you right now, I have absolutely no regrets on that activity. I went and exposed a gang of rapists. They kidnapped a child. They gang raped her. They were immigrants to this country, most of them Afghans, and I exposed them and I got sent to jail for 9 months, and I would do it again standing on my head to protect another British child from being gang raped. These men, 4 of them, raped this child 4 times each. Now, I just want to say something now. I don't want to be crude, but I want to say something now before I get onto all of this. The burden of proof in a criminal case is beyond reasonable doubt. It's very difficult to prove. It's very difficult to quantify or to prove the amount of times that someone has been raped beyond reasonable doubt. They prove beyond reasonable doubt that this child was raped at least 4 times each by these men. You don't want to know the horrifying facts of this case. So I've got no issues with the fact that they jailed me for that. I mean, my only issue is one shouldn't be jailed for exposing gang rapists. However, that's how the legal system in this country works. We know that if you embark on those activities and you expose such activities, then you are liable to be persecuted and prosecuted. And I was indeed, excuse me. So there we go. There's a bit of background. Whilst I was in jail, there were sums of money that were unlawfully taken from my bank accounts, from my credit cards. There were contracts that I had taken out on behalf of my former party that hadn't been paid back to me. There was amounts owed. Cars were sold. Properties were disposed of. You name it, it happened. So, when I left my former party, I simply said, I would like the money that I've loaned to you and that you've unlawfully taken and that's owed to me, and that's it. Well within your rights to do that. At the same time, my solicitors, and you should know this, I've got no problem sharing this. It's not something I really like talking about too much, but I've got no problem sharing this. At the same time, my solicitors lodged a second application for default judgment. You will see that the plaintiff in this is Jayda Fransen, and the defendant is Paul Golding. Paul Golding, the leader of Britain First. And I will read to you the circumstances around this. Where are we? Okay. So, here we go. Let me see if I can pull that up there. There you go, so you can see that. All right. So, The writ of summons in this matter was issued on the 16th of October 2020. As appears from the face of the writ, the plaintiff's claim, which is me, is for damages for personal injuries, loss and damage sustained by the negligence, assault, battery and trespass of the defendant, Paul Golding, towards the plaintiff, Jayda Fransen, between 2014 and 2019. It's very clear on both of these documents that the plaintiff is named as Jayda Fransen. There and there. That's me. Those are the details of what the claim is for. And subsequently, no defence was filed by any of the defendants, and orders were granted. And here are the orders. From the High Court of Justice in Northern Ireland, the orders were granted against the defendants, Paul Golding and a number of other defendants in Britain First. So, most of you were aware of this, right? Most of you were aware of it. It was reported in the media. The media have a little field day. They had their little headlines there, nonsense that they want to talk about. And so a lot of you were aware of it. A lot of you were aware that this was going on. I don't talk about it because it's an ongoing case. Because what subsequently happened was orders were granted against those individuals that I've just spoken to you about, including Paul Golding, for assault and battery against me. And then the defendants decided to lodge papers into court to say that they didn't know anything about the case. They're denying all culpability, which I'm not going to prejudice my own case, but I'm going to show you some evidence shortly. I'm only going to show you the evidence that's in the public eye. But before I do that, I want to share something else with you, because this is really sinister, and this is why I'm talking about this today. I wouldn't normally be talking about this because I don't talk about ongoing legal cases. It's not a very good idea. However, let me show you, let me share my screen with you. And let me show you something that's been sent out over the last few days. And let me tell you something now. This is very, very concerning. Very concerning. For several reasons, but I'll explain. This is an email that's been blasted out by Britain First to their entire database. That's their membership, that's their supporters, that's their donors. These are people that are members of Britain First Party. These are people that are supporters of the Britain First Party. These are people that are donors to the Britain First Party. These are people that are buying merchandise and products, right? People that give their support to the Britain First Party, people that sign up for emails, that want to follow their videos, their supporters. Let me show you what they've sent their supporters. This is an email. They've sent a number of emails over the last few days, but this is their latest email. This email is today. And the reason I'm highlighting it is this is fraudulent. There's such a thing as deception and obtaining money by deception. And I'm just going to show you a few issues with what Britain First have been pumping out over the last few days. First and foremost, a couple of days ago, an email went out claiming that Britain First were being sued by Hope Not Hate. It's probably no secret to most of you, because I did a show on this, in fact, highlighting their lies and their distortion and their tricks. It's probably no secret that Paul Golding and Tommy Robinson teamed up, put out some hatchet job trying to imply that somehow when I got released from jail and I made the decision to leave Britain First, the Knights Templar, who we've got people in our chat, we've got members who are in the Knights Templar. They are watching this video right now. They very kindly fundraised for me when I got out of jail so that I could set up what at the time was Jayda Fransen Online. That was my new project, so that I could leave Britain First. And this was public. I emailed it out to people. They emailed it out to people. It's common knowledge. There was a little hit piece done recently by Tommy Robinson, who is a paid shill. You've got to think about this, right? When the establishment roll out their golden boy, literally the main chief shill, right? Chief establishment shill. This is someone who's popping up in Israel and you name it, right? Shillman Society, all of that. When they roll at their chief shill to try and attack you, you know that you're upsetting the right people. You know that you're doing something right. So anyway, a little hit job was put out, and they tried to imply that somehow the money that was fundraised by the Knights Templars, and there will be people in this chat who donated to that, Templars in this chat who donated to that, so thank you very much, because without you, I'd be stuck in the terrible situation that I found myself in for 5 years. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you for liberating me from that torture. Because let me tell you something, prison was a walk in the park compared to the 5 years spent under the oppression and control of the people involved in that movement. Not all of them, some of them. So there'll be people watching this to remember donating to that campaign. However, Tommy Robinson, because he likes to get views and he likes to be involved in scandal and he likes to just play the little Hollyoaks, EastEnders, low-grade, trashy, let's wage campaigns against people. Doesn't matter if they're female. Doesn't matter if they've been wronged. Doesn't matter what the facts are. Let's team up with people who have judgments against them for beating women and let's go after them, right? We've seen Tommy Robinson's done it to me. He's done it to Lauren Southern. He did it to Lucy Brown. These people are not shy of going after women. But unfortunately for them, some women aren't willing to just let themselves be victimised. And so you may have seen that there was this silly hit piece that went out and they basically claimed that the money that was raised by the Knights Templar was actually donated to me or given to me by Hope Not Hate. Let me make something very clear for anyone who's under any misconception, because I've had a few messages from people over the last few months, especially after that little hit piece went out. Let me make something very clear. You don't dedicate your entire life. You don't go to jail. You don't lose houses and lose cars and lose businesses and lose bank accounts and your liberty and friends and family members. You don't do all of that. Protecting people, protecting young grooming gang victims, standing up for our country, sticking up for our rights, speaking out against trans, speaking out against homosexuality and LGBTQPZ+. You don't do all of that, sticking up for white lives and white lives matter. You don't do all of that if you're shilling for Hope Not Hate. If you do that, I'd say that you're not very good at it. I'd say that if it indeed was my mission, right, to further some left-wing cause, I haven't done very well at it considering I've dedicated my life to right-wing activism. And when I say right-wing, I don't mean right-wing like these shills. I mean genuine, traditional Christian. Walking through the streets in Muslim-occupied areas with a cross. When you've done it and you've been to jail for it and you've been attacked for it and you've had your house attacked and you've had your house taken from you and you've had your car taken from you and your bank accounts and all of your assets and your family and your friends, people have been threatened, your health has been threatened, your life has been threatened. When you've done all of that, when you've done it, come and speak to me. The people that have sent me these messages, blindly following these obvious grifters, I actually don't have any sympathy for them. I don't have any sympathy for them because they're idiots and they're mugs, right? That's how that is. That's how that goes. However, people in the chat saying they heard it, didn't believe a word of it. Of course, it's crazy. It's ludicrous. It's nonsense. Never in my life. Let's have it on record. And this is on record in court, by the way, just in case anybody's of any doubt. It's on the record in the court. Never in my life have I taken any money, not a penny, not half a penny, nothing, not a crypto, right? Nothing from any of these left-wing groups, including and particularly Hope Not Hate, who are just as scummy, by the way, as Britain First and Tommy Robinson. Just going to throw that out there. Anyway, right, once I've got that out, let me tell you what's really nefarious here. Britain First have put out several emails over the last few days expressly stating, and somebody's put in the chat there, false representation is fraud, as is threats and harassment. Tommy gets it. It seems to escape Mr. Golding for now. Tommy obviously does get it because Tommy's gone a little bit quiet on this one, which I would suggest means he's probably the brains of the operation, because I think Tommy Robinson might have the wherewithal to refrain from the idiocy that I'm about to show you. This is really sinister. Because what I'm about to show you is emails that have been sent out. Emails that have been sent out by Britain First to their own people. Now, if there are people watching this who support the British Freedom Party and they also support Britain First, I'm just going to say right now, be very careful. Be very careful. This is an ongoing case. I'm going to give you a bit of a fact around it shortly, but this is an ongoing case and you could well find yourself involved and embroiled in it. So I'm just going to put that out there now. That's the most I'm going to say about that, because people need to make their own decisions. You've got the information. I'm going to give you the information now. Once again, you've got the information. Make your own decision. The most nefarious thing, the most sinister thing about all of this is, over the last few days, Britain First have put email blasts out to their own members, their loyal members, stating that they are being sued by Hope Not Hate. That, I have just proven to you, is a blatant lie. I've showed you the documents. I've showed you the court documents. I am the plaintiff, Jayda Fransen, not Hope Not Hate, not those scumbags that work for the establishment and left-wing far-right Marxists, right? 'Cause that's what they are. These people are crackpots. These are cultural Marxists. These are hard left individuals who support the education system that indoctrinates our kids about LGBT. That's who these people are. These are the people that stand on the beaches holding signs saying refugees are welcome. That's who these people are. That's who Hope Not Hate is. That's not who's suing Britain First. Britain First have put emails out in the last 3 days asking for £6,000 from their own members. I want you to think about something before I show you this email, right? Very quickly. This is the email I'm about to show you, and this is the graphic that Britain First have posted out to all of their members and their supporters and their donors. I want you to think about something before I go on. Just think about this for a moment. Imagine for a moment that you got an email from me, personally from me, saying that myself and the British Freedom Party are being sued by Hope Not Hate. Right? And I need you to give us £6,000 to defend that. Imagine if you got that email from me and you sent me money because you don't want me being sued by Hope Not Hate. You don't want our party being sued by Hope Not Hate. And then imagine if you found out that, in fact, we're not being sued by Hope Not Hate, but in fact, this is to defend me because I've assaulted someone vulnerable. Right? Imagine if the shoe was on the other foot and if I had done this. Anybody who's following these people, anybody who's following Paul Golding has put an email out saying that he is being sued by Hope Not Hate and they're trying to bankrupt his party. That is a lie. He has been sued by me for assault, battery and trespass, and he has been found guilty of that in a civil court, in the High Court of Northern Ireland. They have issued a judgment against him. Those are the facts. We're not talking about Hope Not Hate here. There's a big image that they've sent out asking for money, tricking his own members into thinking that Hope Not Hate are suing them. No. This is a legal case between myself and somebody who I was involved with, who over a period of 5 years physically, mentally, verbally assaulted me. And a court issued a judgment against him for assault, trespass and battery. A man who battered a woman. That's what we're talking about here, right? This is the email. The email that went out a few days before, a couple of days ago, said that there was a big case on Monday. They had to fight for their lives to save themselves. That was a lie. There's no case on Monday. There was a hearing scheduled for Monday for this judgment, this very judgment, a default judgment. Let me explain something to you very quickly. A default judgment was issued against the defendants, as I said earlier, because they failed to defend the case. They ignored it, right? They were issued papers by my solicitor and they ignored it. So the judge issued a judgment against them. And it was a judgment, I showed you, right? A judgment was issued against them because they did not offer any defence. So they had a judgment. They have now applied for that to be set aside. I think those of you who watch my shows on a regular basis will recall a few weeks ago I touched on this. And I said that those orders can be set aside. We're not going to contest that. Of course they can be set aside. If the defendants are now saying that they didn't receive the summons, they didn't receive the paperwork, that's what they're claiming, right? They were claiming, Paul and Ashley were claiming that they were in Lanzarote on holiday, and the first they heard of it was they got a phone call from their family members whilst they were off sunning themselves, probably on your donations, by the way, but they were sunning themselves in Lanzarote, and they got information to say that they'd had this judgment against them, right? I don't mind that being set. Let me tell you why I said weeks ago we were not going to contest that being set aside. It's because all that's going to happen now is it will just go back to court. It will go to a hearing and these people will have to defend themselves. So confident am I. Let me just throw this out there. So confident am I that my case is watertight. So confident am I that I have no problem with them applying to set this judgment aside, because another judgment will be issued by the very same court when they examine the evidence, which is abundant, let me say. We're talking hundreds, if not thousands, of exhibits to back up this claim. So it's irrefutable. Of course I don't mind it being set aside. It was me that gave the instructions that this can be set aside. It was me that said, I'm not going to contest that, right? Now look at the sinister element. This is the email that Britain First put out. After fundraising £6,000 for the last 2 days, they put an email out today and said, victory. Victory. They said, this morning we had an unexpected phone call from our legal team, which is nonsense, by the way, because the call, everybody was notified. My barrister spoke to their legal team yesterday morning, and they still put out a fundraiser asking for money. So you just think about that. If you gave any money to Britain First yesterday, you gave it knowing, with them knowing that this wasn't going to court, right? That's called fraud. They go on to say, the Hope Not Hate stooge that had secretly sued Britain First has capitulated. That's false. Obviously reacting to our emails raising funds for a legal showdown, they have surrendered and thrown in the towel, principally to avoid paying our costs at the hearing in the High Court in this coming Monday. That's not true. No one's capitulated. No one's thrown in the towel. No one's surrendered. This language is absurd. It's absolutely absurd. They go on to say that going public with the whole affair and piling on pressure to the Hope Not Hate stooge in question has obviously rattled them. No. Let me just make the screen big when I reiterate. No. Not rattled. Not rattled. Just so completely and utterly confident in my own conviction, right? So completely and utterly confident that I am happy for those default judgments to be set aside, because I know that very soon, those of you who want to perjure yourselves and wriggle and squirm your way out of this are going to find that it doesn't work. So there you go. Just to clarify that. Here we go. Back to the email. This is quite sinister, to be honest. It's quite sinister. Wow. Someone in the chat has just said they've been asked twice for money. Is Golding running a scam? Well, this is a scam. So, yes, is the long and short of it. This is the scam. It's not Hope Not Hate that they're being sued by. They were sued by me. My solicitors put in an application. I didn't make it public because I don't like to air my dirty laundry, but a judgment was issued against the man for assault and battering a woman over a 5-year period. This is quite sinister. They say Britain First is now content to leave the matter there and move on with the monumental task of saving this nation and building a future for our children. I expect that probably involves a few holidays to Lanzarote in between. Any further skullduggery from this particular person will result in full exposure once and for all, not only by Britain First, but by our allies in the movement. Let me tell you what that is. That's a threat. And I don't take very kindly to threats. And I wouldn't normally do this in this public way, but I think that it's only fair and I think it's only right, especially when there are people in my chat right now, our people that are involved in our movement, good, decent British nationalists involved in the British Freedom Party, telling me that Paul Golding has been emailing them, asking them for money to defend Britain First against Hope Not Hate. It is a blatant lie. And here in their email, they are saying that they're content to leave the matter. But if there's any further skullduggery, then there will be full exposure by Britain First and their allies. I'm assuming they're implying that they're going to involve Tommy Robinson once again. I think even Tommy Robinson's probably had the light bulb moment that it's best to leave this one alone. Because this is bordering on harassment. These are threats, right? These are threats. You cannot threaten someone. You cannot threaten someone to deter them from taking lawful action. You cannot do that. My main concern, I'll be honest with you, right? I'm not going to sit here and say, I'm not going to be like some martyr, but my main concern is everybody else. I don't mind sticking up for myself. I've been doing it for a very long time, a very, very long time. You will recall, I just showed you, I'll show you once again. You will recall from the, let me see if I can find you this now. From the application that I shown you, the judgment that I showed you, that the judgment that my solicitor sought was for a case of assault, battery and trespass of a person from 2014 to 2019, right? There you go. That's the one that I read to you there. Assault, battery and trespass of a person. 2014 to 2019. That's a long time. That's a long time to be subjected to that kind of behaviour. And that's a long time for me to basically try and do my best to protect other people that were in the movement, because that was my main concern. It's always been my main concern, is the cause. But there comes a point when you have to speak out, because what really plagues me now is that these people are sending out email blasts to their own people, asking them for money, lying and asking them for money. It's completely and utterly outrageous. Completely and utterly outrageous. And it is fraudulent. It's deception. It's sickening. It's absolutely sickening. I mean, I am so appalled by it. I really am. So, for those of you who have received an email and those of you who have donated to this legal battle, Britain First versus, you can see it there, it's on the screen, legal battle, Britain First versus Hope Not Hate. That is a blatant lie. It is a lie. Whatever you want to do with this information, you do it. If you have been duped into giving money to this, then I suggest you ask for your money back, right? I suggest you ask for your money back, because these people have lied to you and deceived you in order for you to part with your money, your hard-earned money. There's enough people in this country taking liberties with us. There's enough people in this country. The government take enough liberties with us, draining us for every single penny that we make. Draining us. We go to work 7 days a week. We go to work 7 days a week. Many of us. Even if it's 5 days a week, you know, when you're getting up in the morning, you're getting up at 5 a.m. and it's freezing cold, and you know that you're going to work so that you can hand over a big portion of your tax to the government. We get enough people literally taking the hand out of us in this country and taking money and squeezing money out of us. We've got people that can't switch their heating on, people that can't switch their lights on, people that can't feed their children, and then you've got so-called nationalists, so-called patriots who are asking their own people for money under completely false pretenses. You have just given money to a man who is trying to defend himself against being convicted and found guilty in a civil case, in a civil court, for battering a woman over a 5-year period. That's what you've just given money for. And I'm sorry to lay it bare for you, because I don't revel in this. I wouldn't normally do this. I let people make their own decisions. If you want to support Britain First after everything that you know about them, if you still want to support them, fine. That's down to you. But this is too much of a con. This is too much of a big lie. This is not fair to people parting with their hard-earned money on the basis that they're supporting a so-called right-wing group. No, you just gave your money to a man who is trying to defend himself after being ordered to pay damages to a woman that he beat for 5 years. That's what you've just done. And I don't revel in that information, but whatever you do with it is down to you. One last thing before I go. One last thing before I move on. Not go, before I move on, because we've got other things to talk about. But before I move on, there's one last thing I'm going to show you. It's a clip. I'm not going to give any. I'm not going to prejudice my own case, because I'm not stupid. But I will highlight this. Because this isn't fair. They can come after me all they like. I will defend myself. Right, I'm sick of it. These people are bullies. These people are bullies, and they're master manipulators, and they are grifters, and they are liars, and they are barefaced liars. But I will defend myself, right? And I will defend what I believe to be right. I'll do that all day long. But if people want the truth, if people want a bit of the truth, I'm not going to prejudice my own case, because I will keep going with this. This isn't the last of it. So for those whoever wrote those emails, Mr. Golding who wrote those emails, or the other people involved in the Britain First movement who now somehow believe that this has gone and null and void, I don't think you're getting very good legal advice. In fact, I think you're probably just ignoring the legal advice you're getting. This isn't finished. All this means is that we're going to a hearing whereby I will have an abundance of evidence ready waiting and exhibited into the court to absolutely and unequivocally, completely and utterly prove that everything that I have claimed is true. Sorry to burst your bubble, but this is not over. Before I move on, I'm going to play you all a bit of footage. Because if people are being asked and they're getting my side and they're getting their side, and if you want some hard facts, here's some hard facts. This is quite difficult for me to play this, because this is a time that I don't really care to remember. But I'm going to play this to you anyway. I kind of find it a bit embarrassing, actually, because it's the first time ever, apart from on my live streams when I'm talking about Buster, but this is the first time ever on national television that I have ever been upset. Ever. I've given hundreds of interviews on national television over the years, hundreds of them. And someone just said, oh, beat her for asking for money for Ashley Simon. She's Golding's partner. They live together. I've never got upset like this, but I did in this certain piece. If anybody wants unequivocal fact, unequivocal evidence, don't take it from me. Don't just take it from me. Don't take it from the court and the evidence that the court relied upon to issue those judgments. If you feel that you require further evidence, here's evidence from Paul Golding himself admitting that he is a violent bully and that he's not only has he been violent towards me, but also violent towards another lady. So here you go. You make your own decisions.
And what lies just beneath its surface is deeply unpleasant. Until recently, at the heart of the party was the relationship between Golding and his now former deputy, Jayda Fransen. Not long after Fransen joined Britain First, the pair became a couple for a short time. When that ended, they remained in their professional partnership, living in the same house. And many sources told us that both during and after their personal relationship, Golding violently abused Jayda Fransen on a regular basis.
On one occasion, she actually rang me back in 2015, where he'd actually been abusive to her. She'd locked herself outside. She then kept the phone line on, and we heard him throwing a bottle and verbal abuse at her as well.
But these astonishing claims are more than just accusations. Because when we spoke to our source in England, we were passed another secret recording that proved it. What you're about to hear is one clip from a 40-minute secret recording that was made in late 2015. During the full 40 minutes, Jayda Fransen is talking to Paul Golding about the violent attacks he has been carrying out on her. Not once in the full 40 minutes does Paul Golding deny her repeated claims of the violent assaults.
Because this morning's proved we can't live together.
Because you're violent.
For whatever reason, we can't live together.
So you can hit me and then tell me I've got to leave my home.
No. What happened this morning? And you weren't innocent.
I didn't come near you. You tried to come out. You tried to hit me. Said you're going to kill me. You threw a bottle of drink at my face.
Driving someone mentally crazy is just as bad as physical.
Really? No. Everyone drives you crazy, so you beat them. That's your excuse.
The only two girls I've laid a finger in my life is and you, and she's an horrible.
In this particular clip, Paul Golding eventually admits he was indeed beating Jayda Fransen, and that he had previously assaulted another woman. Jayda Fransen only reluctantly agreed to talk to Spotlight after we contacted her with our concerns about allegations of criminal behaviour in Britain First. When we heard the secret recording, we went back to her a second time, and she agreed to another interview. We've spoken to around a dozen people who were members of Britain First who told us that you were being violently abused by Paul Golding. Is that true?
Well, I don't see any reason why a dozen people would lie.
That's the leader of a political party violently attacking the deputy leader of a political party. How long did this go on for?
5 years.
The whole time you were in Britain First?
More or less. Well, maybe 4.5. Didn't take long to start, and just on varying levels continued.
We played her clips from the recording we obtained.
It's quite embarrassing because I almost feel like I've let people down.
Why? Who?
Just, I don't know. Just such a stupid position to put and keep myself in, and I don't know.
There is personal animosity between Jolene Bunting and Golding, but she says she was aware of the violent abuse.
I got chatting with Jayda about it, and she opened up And I kind of says, look, I've been told that he grabbed you by the throat. And she confirmed that. And at that point, it just clicked with me. I thought, you know, this is a domestic abuse relationship.
Jayda Fransen says Golding would punch and kick her and throw things at her.
There were incidents that could have gone so badly wrong, like so badly wrong. I could have ended up really hurt or worse. And I guess that's where the fear came in, because I thought, I'm going to end up dead.
It is also claimed Golding routinely locked Jayda Fransen in her home, saying it was for her own protection. But sources who saw this believe it was really about controlling her.
We've spoken to a number of ex-members of Britain First. They also said there were times when they would go out and Paul would lock you in the house until they came back. Is that true?
Yeah. This was my normality. This was my day-to-day existence, was just complete control, I guess, or being controlled, I guess. It was like I just accepted that was what he was going to do, that I couldn't, if they went out and he'd lock me in the house.
She says she never went to the police about the assaults because she didn't want to damage the party.
I don't want to sit here and go into graphic detail and dish the dirt on everything that happened, but there is also a moral obligation just to anyone, male or female, involving themselves in Britain First with no idea that this is how the leader is conducting himself.
Paul Golding didn't respond to the specific allegations of violent assaults on Jayda Fransen.
There you go. Excuse me. I don't like watching that. I remember actually somebody said to me, why did you talk to the BBC? Why did you give that interview? It's a funny thing, actually. I came out of prison and the BBC said that they were doing a documentary on Britain First. And I said to them, I'm not in Britain First anymore. Actually, at the time, I hadn't even told the public that I wasn't in Britain First anymore. I just made a decision. I was leaving Britain First. When I went to jail, I realised that I was safer in prison away from that man than I was on the outside. Right? Just let that sink in, because that's the God's honest truth. So I'd made the decision already that I was going, but I hadn't made everyone aware, and I wanted to do the right thing because I loved the people that I was in that movement with, the majority of them. I loved them. And so the BBC came to me and said, we want to do an interview. And they said, well, we want to interview you about your time in Britain First because, you're a racist. I said, all right, fine. I don't mind. Do you know how many BBC interviews I've done in my life? Countless. I can't even tell you how many interviews I've done in my life, especially ones where they want to call me a racist. Bring it on. So I said to them, fine. If anybody's interested, in fact, I'll share the link with you to the full documentary. The full documentary was supposed to be about Britain First and how racist I am and all of the rest of it, how much of a terrible person I am, all that good stuff, the usual stuff that you get from the BBC. It wasn't until halfway through filming, they contacted me again and said, we've been speaking to some other people that were involved in Britain First and we've got something that we want to show you. And I said, I'm not interested. I've given you your interview. You called me a racist. I told you my views on mosques and Islam and all the rest of it, immigration. I told them all of that, did all of that. They said, this involves you personally. And we think that you need to listen to this. And they basically had a 45-minute recording or 42-minute recording that they played to me in which you've just heard a snippet. Paul Golding admits to hitting me and his ex is the mother of his child because apparently we annoyed him, or apparently she's a C word, so she deserved it, apparently. That's what he said. And anyway, you'll see. I'm pretty much caught off guard there. They played me that recording and then asked me, why didn't you report this? What did you... It's a funny thing. I've given hundreds and hundreds of interviews in my life, but nothing could have prepared me for that interview. Nothing could have prepared me for it. Because I don't mind being interviewed about racism and immigration and all that. I don't mind. I can deal with that. When you're being interviewed, you've just been played a recording of yourself screaming and crying your eyes out because you've just had a bottle thrown into your face. That's a different thing. I didn't want that on national television. I didn't want to have to deal with that. I didn't want the BBC doorstepping me, but they did. They got me in a room, they played me the recording, they rolled their cameras whilst I was listening to it, and then said to me, what's that about? Why have a dozen people said that you've been subjected to abuse? Why have a dozen people said that you've been subjected to violence? Why have people said that you were locked in your house? You know, imagine being put in that position. And imagine that for the 5 years that went on, I had said nothing. But I will not apologise. I will not apologise for speaking up for myself. And I will not apologise for wanting to do what's right. And I will not apologise, nor will I be deterred or frightened or threatened by people who are trying to pervert the course of justice, send out, they're not even veiled threats. Express threats saying that if I'm not left, if I don't leave things alone, if I don't stop, this is basically what that email has just, I've read to you that email. If I don't keep my mouth shut and drop all of this, then I'm going to feel the full force of Britain First and all of their allies. Well, if Britain First and their allies want to threaten me in public, in full view of everybody, in front of everybody, in the middle of a legal case where those will be exhibited into court, I would suggest that they maybe want to take stock, because this is either absolute foolishness or this is desperation. I don't know which one this is, but it's not okay. And I'm not going to put up with it. And I don't think anybody else should put up with it. And, you know, if you find yourself in these circumstances, maybe don't do what I did. Maybe don't put up with it for 5 years until one day you get doorstepped by the BBC and then your dirty laundry's aired. Maybe don't. But anyway, there's the link. I'm just going to post the link up for you. There's a link for the full video. If you want to watch it on YouTube, you can see the whole thing. You can see the accounts of the other witnesses. You can see everything. Everything. I didn't even know that most of this was coming. I haven't spoken to these people. I didn't know there were going to be people on camera saying that they've got phone calls of me recorded. I didn't know there were going to be people on camera saying that they'd had conversations with me about domestic violence. I didn't know that this was going on. You know, it was quite a difficult time for me. But I certainly am not going to be blamed by Tommy Robinson, by Paul Golding, by anyone in Britain First or anyone who supports them. I am not going to be blamed and vilified and threatened and abused further for doing what's right and sticking up for myself. You should not live your life. As a man, men should know better than living their life, going through life, abusing and physically hurting women. And if they do that, they should face the consequences. And that's exactly what's happening. Right, I'm going to move on now that we've dealt with that. There's a few things that I want to say before we go. First of all, next week we've got some exciting stuff. We've got some exciting announcements. There's some conversations that have been had, brief conversations nevertheless, because I've been ill, but conversations, there we go, about people progressing in the British Freedom Party and moving into certain roles, which has been really useful, because if anything has been abundantly clear over the last couple of weeks, it's that we've been so busy. We've been so busy with all of our campaigns and our publications and all of the different stuff that we've got going on that sometimes we're not prepared for certain eventualities. And of course, over the last couple of weeks, I've been out of action and it has seen some of the stuff slow down a little bit. So we've got a few people going into some quite important roles over the next couple of weeks, which is really exciting stuff because we're building, we're growing, and that's the most important thing. So we're going to bring you some of that news next week, hopefully when I'm not coughing and spluttering, although I think I'm on a roll now. I've realised in this show that if I shout and rant, then my cough subsides. So maybe that's the way forward. Very briefly, and this is a complete side note, but lots of you have been sending me messages about Buster, and I absolutely love that you do that. I just want to share something with you. Tomorrow is Buster's birthday. I know, he's a dog, don't care. It's his birthday tomorrow. And I didn't think he was going to be here for this birthday. I'll be completely honest. I don't think anybody thought he was going to be here, but here he is, and God willing, he will be here tomorrow, and he will be 11. But I wanted to show you this. This is so cute. Something nice to just do away with all that grim stuff that we've just been talking about. But I hope everybody understands, before I show you this cute stuff, I hope everybody understands why that had to be said. You know, when people are running such a blatant grift and a blatant lie, they need to be called out. And some people might say, oh, you know, well, if people are still supporting Britain First, then why are you trying to protect them? Somebody hit the nail on the head in the chat earlier. And I'm not sure who said it, but I'm going to read it. I'm going to see if I can find it and read it. There we go. Somebody posted this in the chat earlier, and I saw it and I thought, our people aren't daft. The people involved in the British Freedom Party, they're not daft. This is the comment that I saw earlier. People do not understand that every single member of Britain First are responsible for the costs, tens of thousands. That's the crux of this matter. Those people who are members of Britain First is a political party. The members of a political party are jointly and severally liable, right? Jointly and severally liable, which means that every single person who's a member of Britain First is implicated in this legal process because the undertaking was given by that party. And if the party, as they are, and the leader, as he is, and the officials, as they are refusing to cover the costs, just pay what they owe, nothing else. If they want to protract this long legal argument when they have already been found guilty, they have already had a judgment against them. If they want a long protracted legal argument, people have to understand, if you are supporting this movement, if you're a member of this movement, you are jointly and severally liable for the costs. And I'm going to say no more than that. Because frankly, I think I've put enough information out there, and I think there are enough people out there that have seen that information and choosing to ignore it. In which case, you've made your bed. I hope it's comfortable. Let me show you some cuteness of Buster. Here we go. Look, this is baby Buster. This is baby Buster before I even picked him up. So I went to look at him when he was a teeny tiny little baby. And of course, you don't pick them up until, what is it now, 10 weeks? I think I went to see him at 8 weeks. Oh no, I saw him before that. I think they have their jabs at 8 weeks and then you pick them up at 10 weeks, something like that. It was either 8 or 10 weeks when I picked him up. Anyway, when I picked him up, he was so small. I remember this. He was so small he could fit in the palm of my hand. He was tiny. He was so cute. Anyway, here's some pictures of him when he was a little tiny baby. Look at his face, Mr. Grumps. I'll show you some pictures because I thought we could have a little dose of cuteness after all of that carry on. Look, there he is. Look how small he is. That little teddy is tiny. I mean, it's crazy to think how big and fat he's got. There he is. Look, there's little baby Buster. There he is with his little side eye. So cute. Yeah, Danny Beast is an amazing picture. I know, so cute. And look, he's still got that teddy. And trust me, that teddy is so small. It looks massive there. It's not. It is tiny. It's the smallest little beanbag teddy. But anyway, that was little Buster before I even picked him up. So that's but roughly what he looked like when I went and got him when he was a teeny tiny baby. And now he's 11. And I wonder if I can pick him up. He's laying on the floor next to me. Let me see if I can get him. Hold on. Oh, I can. Oh, there he is. There he is. There he is. Buster boy. Look, he's got all of his... Oh, babe. He's so heavy. He's been having all the good food, right? Look, you'll see he's got all his shaved bits where he's had his surgery. I mean, he's doing good. His wound's healing up nice. He's tired. His face has gone a bit pale, so you'll see. Look, he's probably thinking, "What are you doing?" You'll see here how dark his face was when he was tiny. He was dark, pretty dark up until recently. Like he went grey as he was getting a bit older, but his face has gone really pale from the cancer. But despite the fact that he looks like he's literally about to pass out, he's just very, very, very chilled. And he's doing really good. He's eating really well. Look at his belly. Look at this belly. Look at this belly. And his big bald belly. You see? He's all bald. But he's a good boy. And he's doing really good. And it's his birthday tomorrow. So, yeah, the Galvanised Yankee says the BFP mascot. Absolutely. Big Buster. Big Buster. So anyway, I thought I'd give you some cuteness after that. Bit of a horrible rant, but sometimes you got to do it, right? You got to speak up. You know, when you're speaking up for something that's right, even if you stand alone and you know that you're subjecting yourself or opening yourself up to attack, which is what I've had for many, many years from these people. Like, think about this. It's been going on for a long time. 2014 at the start date on those documents. It's now 2022. Theobald says he's turned into a bulldog. Yeah, maybe he's morphed into a bulldog. But, you know, sometimes things need to be said. You need to get them out of the way. And I suppose it was a good exercise for me to do some ranting to get my voice back after a stint of the plague. So thank you very much, everybody, for tuning in. And God willing, I will be back with you all on Monday. So please do try and join me on Monday at 7 p.m. on Purged TV. Until then, everyone, have a lovely weekend. I'm very, very pleased to be back with you all. I missed you dearly. in my sick bed, feeling like absolute rubbish. I missed you dearly. I'm very pleased to be back, and I'm glad that you were all here when I did return. I wasn't just speaking to myself. So have a lovely weekend, everybody. Stay safe, stay sane, and I will catch you all on Monday. God bless.